Hi, my name is Troy Zacharias, and I live at 2603 East D Street. It's right down by McDonald Elementary School there. I stand before you today in a uniform, but I am not here representing the Moscow Volunteer Fire Department. I wanted to make that clear. I am on call tonight, and as soon as I'm done here, I have to go do that. But I am addressing something that would pertain to them. I want to make it clear that I am a citizen coming forward. Just want that on record. I'm a concerned citizen because I think that one of the things that we have around here in the city is a shortage of EMS personnel. Just in the last month or so, we've had to drop from 5 shifts down to 4 shifts, meaning that instead of going every 5th day, we have to go every 4th day on call because we don't have enough personnel to cover that 5th shift. We also, that results in more burnout. People are running more calls, having to do more stuff. They get tired of it. They end up backing out, which leaves even less personnel. And in the long run, we end up with a death spiral that basically results in no EMS personnel. The other thing I wanted to point out is we only have 4 paramedics covering the city of Moscow as well as the greater Latah County. And the other thing that you might want to know is some of those paramedics are looking at other options, other paid options, as in moving away from our community. I had the opportunity to read the mission statement over here, and I think it's very similar to some of the mission statements that we're going to find down in the Moscow Volunteer Fire Department, in that we are trying to do the greatest good with the limited resources that we have for our community. That being said, maintaining Moscow Volunteer Fire Department as a volunteer service really does make sense from a number of different aspects. First of all, it does save the taxpayers money. Next of all, because we are volunteer, we qualify for more federal and state grants, which allow us to bring in better equipment. Because we're volunteer, we save money that we would be spending on salaries that goes towards a lot of top-notch equipment. I come from 2 other private ambulance services before working here, and I have to say you guys have got a lot of very nice equipment to save the lives that we are involved with. But what good is this equipment if we do not have the personnel around to use it, who are trained to use it? The question comes to mind, where are they going? There are EMS personnel out there, but there's none of them around here. Well, there's very few of them around here. And the answer is they're going to paid jobs. And why not? I've got $10,000 in 2 years into my schooling to become a paramedic. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of commitment. And to not be reimbursed for it is a frustrating thing, especially when I've built some community here in the Moscow area. But due to the economic situation that we have throughout the nation, we are seeing more and more of our EMS personnel stretched between the needs of their community and the needs of their families. So the question comes to mind is, how do we provide EMS to Moscow and the surrounding communities? And like I mentioned before, I worked with 2 private services before moving here. And in towns half the size of Moscow, they were paying $450,000 and more just towards their salary. Now, I think that we can do it for a lot less. First of all, we've got a community of volunteers that are willing to already volunteer, but I think we need to help them out in these economic times. I would like to take this opportunity to open up dialogue between local government, the citizens, and the EMS providers that we have in the city. What if we could pay $200 a day to have a paramedic on call ready to go 24/7? That comes to only $75,000 that we'd have to come up with. Right now we've got $1.5 million slated for the Joseph Street ball field if the bond goes through. Ironically, if little Timmy is out at the ball field and gets hit by a foul ball, we might not have the personnel to get over there and save his life. One of the things I ask that we do is maybe look at where we might be able to find some funds to start to reimburse some of these EMS personnel. In conclusion, the purpose that we are here as EMS providers as well as the council is to do the most with the limited resources we have. I'm asking that, well, first of all, I think it makes sense for us to maintain the volunteer service for the fire side of things because it does open up a lot of finances coming into the community to help serve our community better. And that only opens up a couple of other options. And that's our trained EMS personnel becoming city or county hired personnel. That being said, I think that we should start exploring paying our medically trained personnel through a county and city joint effort, because we obviously do go up to the county as well. And I think we need to do this before we lose all of our personnel to cities who are willing to pay the personnel what they're worth. Again, I stand before you as a concerned citizen, not as a Moscow Volunteer Fire Department representative.
Thank you, Mr. Zachariason. Just a question, clarification. So you're proposing that the firefighters remain volunteer, that those who are EMTs are compensated per day of service, and that the EMTs and the paramedics are paid the same for their services? Is that what you're, as well as are the cities paying for part of the training program?
I am opening up the dialogue. I have no clue. I know that I'm opening up a can of worms, but I also acknowledge that when somebody dials 911, they expect to have well-trained personnel there, and right now we're having a hard time filling that slot. And it's something that we need to encounter now before we start to lose people to death and suffering because we are not able to provide that. All that to say, in many cases, it makes sense as a volunteer fire department back, in the 60s and 70s when they weren't running as many medical calls, that it made sense as a volunteer side of things. Right now, we're averaging about 5 calls a day. And when we're writing a report, paperwork that we have to do, that's an hour. If I'm writing it, it's going to be about an hour and a half, 2 hours because I'm a slow typist. That becomes a significant part of our day that we're not being reimbursed for. It's time that I'm spending away from my family that I'm not being reimbursed for. And I think that we need to start showing that we see the value in the EMS personnel that we have around here.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your service as well. It looks like Walter has a comment or question.
How many EMTs do we currently have? I'm not talking paramedics. EMTs, below paramedic.
I'm not positive of the number right now, but I do
35
know.
35 to 40.
What's that?
I think it's 35 to 40.
35 to 40.
And what's optimum?
Right now we're dealing with a volunteer program, so we can say that we've got 120 of them, but if we only have 3 or 4 of them that are running.
No, how many below the level of paramedic EMTs do we have? And the battalion chief tells me, what, 35 to 40?
Yes.
And what's optimum?
I'd take 50.
Okay, I'm sure. Thank you.
120.
I'd take 120.
Or even, if it's 20 of them, but they're all showing up every time, which is something that I could do if I was being reimbursed for the time that I was taken away from my other job. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like Wayne has a question.
Just one other
as well.
question.
Yes.
Are you talking about reimbursement for the paramedics or for all the EMTs also?
Initially, I think we need to start to look at the paramedics because of the amount of training that they have into it. Like I say, there's $10,000 and 2 years that I have into training. EMT, not to slight it, I went through that training as well, but you're looking at usually about $800 in about 6 weeks that you can get through it.
So you're suggesting reimbursement for the paramedic program?
But not final. That's something that I would also consider doing for EMTs, depending on how we're
Okay, I'll rephrase it. Your opening of dialogue is for reimbursement to paramedics.
Yes.
Thank
you. Any other questions?
Thank you. And
Thank
thanks
you.
again for your service. Others